Today's episode is all about effects, guys. I'm gonna run through a top 10 effects that I use the most, which contain some effects that you guys asked me to talk about. I'm gonna show all the settings, how they work, how to configure these sounds to sound better for your specific live loop sets. So you guys know the drill. Let's check this thing out together, shall we? Hi friends, my name is Arthur and I'm a loop artist just like yourself. And I've been playing with the RC-505 MKII for the past few months. I've been using and abusing all its effects, and I've come here to talk about them, try to explain it better for you guys. So I got my RC-505 MKII set on the table here, and we're gonna run through this together and talk about each of these effects. Quick shout out to Just Potato for asking some of these effects here. Some of them compose our top 10 list. So I guess you could say that this is a two top 5 lists, a top 5 effects that I like the most and top 5 effects that you guys asked away. So let's go straight to it. So first effect, the reverb is going to give you that spatial surrounding sound that we always hear in some rooms, whatever room or whatever place we are at. And if I turn it on, you guys can see that my voice is already weird. And if I bump it up, hey, I'm already at a different room. Maybe I'm a cathedral, maybe I'm a big hall or something. So that's the time. The time is gonna change exactly this configuration. Now we have the pre-delay. The pre-delay is gonna add a little bit of a repetition, right? To create this kind of a echo effect. Hey, hey, can bump it up, hey. So there you go. Now to the next page, we have a EQ, which is this low cut and high cut. Usually what we do is like low cut it like 250, just leave the high cut flat so you can really have a really big space. D level is the dry level. So every time you're gonna see D level or E level, the dry level or the effects level. So the dry level is basically the sound of my voice without the effects, right? If I put the effects level at max and I turn down the dry level, wow, hey, hello. And if I turn the dry level up again, hey, there we go. And that's basically it. These are the settings for the reverb. On a side note, guys, every effect has a back page to the left. It's a kind of a global page for that specific button. So button letter D in this case. I can turn on or off effects. I can change the switch mode for a toggle or a momentary switch. If I put a momentary, I have to press and hold the button like this. And maybe you want to do something really quick. You just want to really, hey, and there you're back on again, right? The insert is which channels, which inputs do you want this effect to be turned on? Usually the default is all, but you can maybe choose just the mic 1, just the mic 2, instrument 1, 2. Now let's talk about the next effect, which is the delay. The delay basically doubles your voice, right? Trying to create that echo. So I don't know if you guys ever been to the really big places, really big forests, and when you scream something, the echo bouncing on, and you can hear your voice repeating on the wind. That's basically the delay effect, right? But then we can obviously configure it to however we want. So let's take a look at it. So the first setting we have is the time, which basically dictates the amount of time that your voice is going to repeat after you say it. So I'm going to put 1000 milliseconds, and whatever I say, 1 second after I say is going to repeat. Hey, hey, there we go. I just said once. Next setting is the feedback. So the feedback is basically how many times or how much your voice is going to repeat after you say, hey, 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 hey. D level, sorry, is the dry level again. The same way as the reverb, I can turn all the way down my voice and just hear the delay. Next page, we also have a little bit of an EQ here. So we can cut a little bit of the lower frequencies as we did on the reverb and also the high frequencies. It really comes down to preference, but I prefer to use, obviously, to cut a little bit on the lower frequencies as well, and also cut a little bit of the higher ones. A little tip, if you guys really enjoy watching Marc Rebillet's videos like I do, usually he uses his delay a lot. He puts a really low setting, a really low time setting, 30 milliseconds or less. 30 milliseconds, my voice is going to repeat really fast. So it's going to double my voice, kind of a doubling effect, robotic effect. So just like this, right? So that's what Marc Rebillet did a lot.
Everybody come on in, grab a drink, get those clothes off, let's get in the pool.
Next effect is going to be the Harmonizer Auto. So the Harmonizer Auto is one effect that I really like because, especially if you sing, right? If you like singing like me, hopefully you sing better than me. But anyway, it's going to double your voice with a harmony. And you can choose, so the voice, we can choose if you want a higher voice than you are singing, even higher, an octave above, or an octave below, or lower, low unison, which is the same note, just doubled. The formant is going to change basically your timbre, right? So, hello. So there we go. We have, I guess, may notice that I have two voices now. One is a little bit higher than mine. Mine's a little bit lower. And if I change the formant, I'm going to change the timbre of the second voice, which is going to sound now a little bit more feminine. So if I put even higher, it's going to sound even more chipmunky, right? And the opposite is, it's going to sound even lower. Hey, 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 how you doing? You can pan the effects, obviously, to the left or to the right. Hey, hey. Next page, we have the mode. So here we can change actually to hybrid. It's going to enable you to choose a key for which the harmony is going to respect the notes on those keys. So that was the Harmonizer. Now let's see the next effect, which is the Transpose. So Transpose is pretty self-explanatory, I guess. Whatever you turn on the effect and you choose the big knob, it's going to transpose your sounds into semitones up or higher, right? Like this. Hey, so this is the normal one, 0.
Hey, plus 4 semitones.
Plus 7, 11, and 12. So, yeah.
Also to the lower semitones.
So that's basically it. Next effect, the G2B, right here on the beginning somewhere. So there we go. The G2B, as the name says, refers to guitar to bass. So basically it's going to try to turn your guitar sound to a bass sound. I've really used a lot this effect on my songs here on the channel because it basically enables me to make a bass sound with my guitar. I don't have to use my bass. So, and it works pretty well. So the settings are basically the balance, which is controlled by the big knob, and the mode, which is controlled, it changes the effect by itself. The balance, I always like to leave it at max, and then I just turn on the effects. If you change the mode, it's just going to affect how it sounds, but the effect's the same. It's just a little bit of a different sound, I guess. But I prefer the number 2. Number 2 to me is the way to go. Well, you can also obviously leave the balance at half or less. It's going to let a little bit of your guitar sounds come in. To create this kind of a doubled bass and guitar sound, right? The next effect is the sustainer. So guys, the sustainer is one effect that basically like a gain effect, right? So whenever you turn it on, it's going to make everything sound a little bit higher in volume. I'm going to demonstrate on my guitar. Turn it on. And you can change all the settings, right? So the attack is how fast the effects is going to turn on. The higher the number, the faster it's going to act. The release is how long the effect is going to last. You can put more gain on the lower frequencies or the high frequencies separated. It's actually an EQ, right? But there we go. Now we can lower the low gain, high gain, put a little bit more, or turn down the high gain, just leave the low, really bassy voice right now, right? So I don't know, guys. I just think they called sustainer to give it a name, but in reality, it's like a gain effect that you can separate into low or high gain. So that was the sustainer. The next effect is the synthesizer. Basically makes the sounds, every sound you make sound like a synthesizer. And you can configure it. So you can choose what level of frequencies do you want this to be turned on, and the resonance. So let's see how that sounds. Hey, hey. We can change the frequency, so maybe a little bit higher. The resonance. The resonance is basically like how much of this effect do you want? I don't know how to explain. So it chooses a frequency, right? And the resonance is going to make this frequency more resonant, so more excited. And the decay is how long it's going to last after you play or after you make the sound. So I can leave the decay really So right, the decay controls how fast this round happens. So it can be round, 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 or more round, round, right? Next page, we have the balance, which is what the big knob controls. So you can leave the balance at the max and you will not hear my voice anymore or any other sound. You're just gonna hear the synthesizer. And that's basically it. That's the synth. So next effect right beside it is the lo-fi effect. So lo-fi, for those who don't know, it's a genre of electronic music, right? That has this really like soothing, calming, and really slow-paced electronic songs, right? And they usually put some like shimmering effects, like vinyl sounds on the background that create this atmosphere to be something really, really calming and really soothing, you know. So that's what it does. So the settings that we have, it's the bit depth. So how much of this like shimmering sound is going to make. Hey, 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 hey. The really high values are, well, almost non-existent because the effect is really good when you are at like 16 or down, like 16, 10, 8. And you have the sample rate. So the sample rate is how fast is going to sample your voice. If we bump this up, it's going to f the sound up a little. Hey, 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 hey. So it kind of sounds like those really old video games, and that's what the bit depth does, right? It changes the bit of the sound, basically. That's why it sounds so bad. But we can turn it off, and then that was the lo-fi effect. Next effect is this low gear effect. Let's take a look at it. The low gear is going to ramp up your sound. So it's going to create this kind of a fade in effect on your sound, right? There's a song from Green Day called 21 Guns. The intro has this low gear effect. So let me show you. Some settings. Sensitivity is how sensitive it's going to be the whatever you do, whatever sound you do, right? So if you put the lower values on it, nothing's gonna happen. But if we put a higher sensitivity, and it's the rise time, obviously how long it's going to take for this ramping up to happen, right? So if you want to do this or right, so the rise time is actually controlled by the big knob, as you guys can see. The level is obviously how loud you want the effect to be. So in here we don't have the dry level here, just have the level. So if you put it at 100, it's just going to sound the effect sound and not any other instrument or whatever. Next page we have the mode, which changes obviously how the effect sounds, like the algorithm of the effect. I really prefer number 2. I think it sounds better. So the last effect, guys, is the oscillator. So we have two types of oscillator on the RC-505 Mark II. We have the oscillator vocoder and the oscillator bot. They actually do the same thing, both of them. The main difference is that the oscillator vocoder, you can't use it without a MIDI keyboard or a MIDI device plugged in. For that, we can use the oscillator bot, which does the same thing, right? But it's going to work with the sound signal, right? So whatever I play, whatever I do on the microphone, on the guitar, the sound is going to be transferred, it's going to be altered to be whatever I configure here. For example, the first setting is the most important one. So how you wanted the sound to change? Do you want to become a saw wave, right? So a saw wave is like a kind of a triangle shape thing, which makes the sound a bit more rough, let's say, a little more robotic. We also have vintage saw, detune saw, square, and rectangle. I recommend you guys testing and seeing whatever you like. The tone, so it's going to change for more of a warm sound or high sounds here, higher frequencies. The attack is how fast do you want this to happen? How fast do you want the oscillator to work on your sound? So if you put really high value, it's going to be faster. And if you put lower, it's going to be slower. So let's see how it works. Hey. And by the way, if you guys didn't notice, the knob, the big knob, controls the balance. Now the only issue that I have with this effect is that one of the ways to control it, the notes, is you have to twist here, right? So whatever you twist here, you change the note, right? I can sing other notes here on the microphone or on the guitar, and it's still going to sound the same note that I choose here. And for that, we have an different approach that is on the next page, which is the sequencer, right? So if we turn on this SW here, this is the sequencer. And then we can choose a sequence of up to 16 notes, as you guys are seeing here. So for example, if I put 4 notes are going to be triggered automatically in a loop. So I can choose these notes. For example, first note, I want to be the E4, second note, A4, third note, C4, and fourth note, F4. And I want them to be triggered at a rate of a quarter note. So let's see. So I was just singing hey, right? And holding hey, and it made the notes by itself. It's nice if you want to create a really like robotic electronic sound. You can bump up the sequence rate. And create some really interesting sounds like that, right? Okay, so talking about the oscillator bot and the oscillator vocoder, I can't forget to talk about an extra effect that is the vocoder itself, just the vocoder. So 2 effects down, we have the vocoder, which basically enables you to control one instrument through another. So for example, if I have my guitar and I choose the carrier of the sound to be my guitar, so instrument 1. So if I turn on the effect, if I play my guitar right now, you guys are not gonna hear it. You may hear on the microphone here, but it's not gonna sound on the RC, because now I'm controlling the sound of my guitar with my voice, with my microphone. I can control the volume with my voice. So, hey, which is weird like that. But if I change the balance here and just put a balance at 100, so I was just doing like hey, 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 right? But in the rhythm that I wanted. So the sound of the guitar would just come up whenever I would sing, right? And that's interesting. You can control the volume of the guitar with your voice or any other instrument, right? So that's it, guys. I hope you have liked this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I hope you have understood some things here. These were the top 10 effects that I use the most and that some of you guys asked me to talk about. I hope you have liked this video, and if you did, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. This is always going to help me a lot, and I really enjoy making these videos, and I plan to do way more in the future. Thank you again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being this awesome person that you are, and we see each other around somewhere, anywhere, everywhere. Who knows? See ya.